In the name of Allah, the most merciful and the most beneficent. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. How are you all? I hope, dear students, you all are fine and well at your home. Dear students, once again, I welcome you in Pakistan International School Taif's virtual learning classes. And you know, this is second year class for subject biology. And in today's lecture, we are gonna see our chapter number 25, that is man and his environment. In this chapter, we have started in the previous lesson, in the previous lecture, in that we have seen about biogeochemical cycles, that there are some primary reservoirs of nutrients. So we have just started this chapter. Today we will talk about biogeochemical cycle and ecological succession, because in the reduced syllabus from this chapter, these two topics are included only. So in biogeochemical cycles, we will talk about water cycle first. As you know that water is recycled again and again, and it is never lost. There are 97% water reservoirs are available in the oceans, or we can say in the ocean form, water is available in 97%. And the water cycle actually starts from those reservoirs, like from the oceans, lakes, rivers, ponds, etc. So we know that the water cycle is driven by solar energy. So sun is the ultimate source of energy for the life on the earth, and water is also recycled by solar energy, and that process is evaporation. We know that. So there are several steps of this water cycle. You also knew about that. These are evaporation, condensation, precipitation, and saturation. Evaporation, when the water is heated up from the sunlight, solar energy, then it evaporates from all the water reservoirs into the atmosphere, and then come back to the earth in the form of a precipitation. In between, there is the process of condensation where the clouds are formed, and then they will get heavy and condense, and they come back on the ground in the form of precipitation. Precipitation means there are lots of sources of precipitation, like rain, like snow, like and hails, sleet also. Sleet is actually sleet. Sleet is actually, we can say, when the rain is mingled with the snow or hail. So when it comes, a hail or snow comes back on the earth in the with the rain, so that is called sleet. So these are the different forms of we can say the precipitation. So when the water comes down in precipitation form, so it gets saturated on the ground. So water in the atmosphere, it circulates in this form in the four steps. So in the saturation means the collection of water in different reservoirs, that is called saturation. So the top of saturation zone is water table. So water table actually is the water level under the ground. So each, we can say whenever the earth contains, when the water comes in the form of precipitation, so it gets saturated or just collected under the ground also, that is called water table. Water table is actually the proper, we can say, the proper level of the water under the ground. So the water on the earth, like except the water table, that is formed in the form of basin and channels. So in the form of basins, it is present in lake and ponds. These are actually the reservoirs, the collections of the water at one place, and the channels which arise from the ponds and lakes, these are lakes, these are streams and rivers, canals, water courses, small water courses also. So these are the channels which, like, we can say the runoff of the water from the basins. There are some other reservoirs under the water where the water table, it is mm, water table runs over there in the form of rivers. Those are called underground rivers, or that are called aquifers. So these are all type of water sources in the environment. Water is also present, or we know that in the living bodies, water is present in almost 70%. So in what the water cycle, some water enters the living communities of ecosystems also. There are certain methods, like different organisms, like they are having different methods of this absorbing of this water, so that because every living thing is made up of water, so they need water at every cost. So like plants absorb water through their roots and then send back to the atmosphere in the form of transpiration when the water is evaporated back to the atmosphere from their leaves. A small amount is continued into the plants with the help of photosynthesis. In photosynthesis, plants combine the water with carbon dioxide. We know that then they form glucose and oxygen. So they use the water for like combining carbon dioxide, and they produce high energy molecules over there. Those are glucose. And then they send the plants send back uh, the water into the atmosphere in the form of a respiration, because that oxygen is used in the respiration, which is produced in the photosynthesis, as well as glucose is utilized in the respiration for the formation of energy. So in that reaction, water is also escaped out while respiration. That is also done in like other organisms also, except the plants. So heterotrophs, like human beings, like other organisms, consumers, all the consumers, they get their water by their food. Like the plants are made up of from the water. Um, so the food and fruits, vegetables, all they contain lots of amount of water. So some plants, some animals use those plants as a food, and they get water from there. And mostly they just use the water by drinking them, the drinking of water. So water cycle is like it's a continuous process. It's a continuous process where there is too much forest, so they escape more water, so there is more rainfall and there as a result. And if there is like a dry place, less plants, so there is less rainfall. But overall the amount of water in under the ground and above the ground is the same, and that is maintained by water cycle. Let's go to another cycle, very, very important, that is nitrogen cycle. Nitrogen cycle is actually the usage of inorganic nitrogen, which is present in the atmosphere. That is almost about 78% of nitrogen is present in the atmosphere. That is utilized by the living organism, especially by the plants. But with that is not directly utilized because that is inert. So utilization of this nitrogen by the plants and then again escaping it into the atmosphere, that is the nitrogen cycle. So that is actually the biogeochemical cycle. It means that describes the transformation of nitrogen and nitrogen containing compound in the nature, like from inorganic to organic and from organic to inorganic nitrogen. That is the cycle of like the nature. So it is required by all living organisms. We know that nitrogen is a more quantity, but that is inert. That's why it is not utilized in the body anywhere in the organisms. So that for utilization, um, that has to be transformed into nitrates or usable form, and then that is utilized for synthesis of organic molecules in every living organisms. For example, amino acids, nucleic acids, proteins, which play vital role in every living organisms. So a nitrogen cycle, overall it is a movement of nitrogen between the earth and the atmosphere. So if you see the nitrogen cycle, that comprises of four main types of reactions. In that, decomposers, nitrogen fixation, assimilation, and denitrification is there. Decomposition reaction or decomposition step, it is going through two main more different steps. These are called ammonification and nitrification. With the name, you can understand that ammonification means the formation of ammonia, and nitrification means formation of nitrites or nitrates. So let's talk about all these steps or reactions in detail. So decomposition is actually the first source of soil nitrates, because what happened here, you can see in the diagram, like these are the plants, animals, their excreta, their dead bodies when they are like buried in the ground. So they are decomposed by aerobic or anaerobic bacteria and fungi also. So they are decomposed. So by that complex nitrogenous compounds are broken down into simplest compounds that the other organisms can utilize them. So that is uh, when they are these decomposers just uh, like produce ammonium from them. So that is called ammonification, ammonium or ammonia. So both are formed in the form of gases. So they are escaped out. That is called ammonification. So the chemical transformation of organic nitrogen into ammonia by metabolic breakdown of proteins and amino acids, which are present in these organic materials. They can be dead materials, that can be excreta also. So then there is another process. This ammonium is not directly used by the plants. So what happened? What will happen here? There this ammonia will be changed into, will be converted into nitrate and nitrites and nitrates by some bacteria. For so we can say that ammonification that is done in an aerobic environment, and fungi and like saprotrophic soil bacteria, like they all are decomposers, so they form simple substances like water, carbon dioxide, ammonia, amino acids, and energy. And these amino acids then again converted into ammonia and ammonium ions. So then these are converted into nitrites and nitrates by the help of nitrifying bacteria. The first group of bacteria which convert this ammonium and ammonia into nitrites, those are called nitrifying bacteria, and that is that is nitrosomonas. They convert this ammonia into nitrites, and then this nitrobacter, there is in these bacteria convert these nitrites into nitrates. So they work all together, like for changing all this organic proteins into that nitrates. Now these nitrates are utilized by the plants. We'll talk about after some time. So conversion of ammonia or ammonium ions into nitrates, that is called nitrification, that is done by bacteria. Let's talk about the next step of nitrogen cycle, that is nitrogen fixation. So this is the process actually when the molecular nitrogen which is present in the atmosphere reduced to form ammonia. Actually, nitrogen is, we can say, that is the molecular form, and that is bonded, both of the atoms will bonded are bounded by triple bonds. So like they form it, we can say inert gas. So that is very, very strongly triple bonded with one another. So it is chemically unreactive. So to break this high energy processes are required in because high energy is to be utilized to break this triple bond. So there are certain steps or certain procedures by which we can fix the nitrogen, like atmospheric fixation. Nitrogen fixation is there, industrial fixation is there, and biological nitrogen fixation is there. So atmospheric nitrogen fixation that occurs spontaneously by lightning is called atmospheric fixation, and a small amount of, almost we can say 5 to 8% only is fixed in this way. So lightning allows nitrogen and oxygen to combine to produce various oxides of nitrogen. So you can see here when the lightning is there, so nitrogen is going to fix, but there is oxygen also present. So nitrogen and oxygen, they both combine and they form nitrous or nitric oxides. So these are carried by the rain into the ground, and then sometimes they form with the rainwater, they form acids, nitric acids also, and they just move into the ground, from where bacteria just change into ammonia, and again a nitrification is done. So industrial nitrogen fixation, that is formation utilizing atmospheric nitrogen in the industries for the formation of fertilizers direct into the nitrates form. So these nitrates are utilized as the fertilizers for the plants. Then if we see biological nitrogen fixation, so that is done by bacteria. So that is almost 60% of nitrogen fixation is done by biological fixation. So here the reduction of nitrogen gas to ammonia is energy intensive. So 16 molecules of ATP are utilized, and lots of complex enzymes are utilized to break down these bonds. So here the nitrogen can combine with the hydrogen. It's with hydrogen, and it forms its reduced form is ammonia. So here we can see N2 plus 3H2 hydrogen, and then it will form ammonia. So again here the nitrifying bacteria will change them into nitrites and then nitrates, and then that is assimilated into the living organisms. So next, very important step, why it all is done. It all is done for assimilation. Assimilation is actually utilization of nitrogen compound into the living bodies. So that is used for various processes. So microorganisms also utilize free nitrogen directly from the atmosphere because they can fix the nitrogen also. So plants obtain nitrogen in the form of inorganic nitrogen compounds like ammonia, as well as nitrates from the soil, which are done by biological fixation and any type of like fixation which we have done. So in the form of fertilizers, we give nitrates to the plants for better growth. Then animals can take this nitrogen by eating those plants as well as by eating other organisms, because other organisms also having protein, so they utilize the nitrogen by breaking down that protein, like human beings eat meat or chicken and proteins, various sources of proteins we are having. The last step of that is denitrification. Nitrification we have seen. Now this nitrification, like nitrites and nitrates, will change into atmospheric nitrogen, and nitrogen will like remove into the atmosphere again in the free form. So here is the denitrification process. So we can see that there are denitrifying bacteria. So these denitrifying bacteria, they just change these nitrites and nitrates into the molecular nitrogen into the atmosphere, especially those bacteria which are their name is Pseudomonas, and they are we can say anaerobic. Like in aerobic condition, they are lacking oxygen. So what they do, they break down that nitrites and you can see the nitrates into nitrites, and then nitrite in change into nitrogen oxide, nitric or nitrous oxide, and then they utilize this oxygen and they escape this nitrogen into the atmosphere in the form of gas. So here is the assimilation, like the utilization of this nitrate into the organisms. So this is ammonium ion, then it's changed into the by nitrifying bacteria into the nitrates and then utilized again. So this all process is done in the cyclic form, and nitrogen's concentration just remain same in the atmosphere at 78%. So we can see the review of nitrogen cycle. So nitrogen fixation is there, we are talking about bacteria, which type of bacteria are using here. So nitrogen fixing bacteria, which are present with the root nodules of the leguminous plants, like which are having fruiting bodies like pods. So we can see like peas, beans, all these plants, they are having the nitrogen fixing bacteria in there. So nitrogen fixing bacteria, they can be here, they form symbiotic relationship and free living also there. So they change nitrogen from the air into the nitrate, first ammonia, then into the nitrate. Ammonifying bacteria and nitrifying bacteria actually decaying these bacteria use decaying material, and fungi also, they convert organic nitrogen into ammonia. Then from ammonia, nitrifying bacteria change them into nitrite, and the same nitrifying bacteria change from nitrite into nitrate. So assimilation, no like utilization of bacteria here, but nitrate just changes into atmospheric nitrogen, organic nitrogen into, for example, into proteins, like organisms use that nitrogen. So then denitrification, in that denitrifying bacteria are there, so they change nitrates into nitrogen, which is escaped into the atmosphere. So here just two cycles are mentioned and we have completed them. So let's talk about our the last topic of this chapter, that is ecological succession. Ecological succession, you can see succession means growth or development. Like in ecosystem, communities grow from the bare land towards like its progressive stage. So a stage of progressive changes in the species that make up a community over time. It takes thousands and millions of years to just having the ecological succession process. So a successive, or we can say the successive replacement of community in an area over a period of time. So how it is done, like we are having just bare lands. For example, there is flood, there is fire, there is any type of volcano eruption, and any type of natural disaster or human involvement is there. So the deforestation is there, clearing of the land. So what happened, the species and the communities of the plants or the living organisms have been cleared from that area. So in that bare areas, whether it is water, whether it is a dry area, um, there is the replacement after the disturbance, replacement of the communities after the disturbance. So that is called ecological succession. On that same place, same area, the organisms started to progress, started to develop. How it is done, we will see in this topic. Individual successions are called a series, and the development phases are called serial stages. So one succession, like one stage, that is called serial stage, or that succession that is involved in the individual which is involved, that is called series. So there are certain kinds of successions, so that depends on the starting point. So we have to focus on the starting point, whether we are talking about kinds of succession, like one is primary succession or other is secondary succession. In primary succession is the change in the species composition over time in a habitat which was not previously inhabited by the organism, that was completely barren. So that is newly exposed or newly formed rock is colonized by living things for the first time. There was nothing before, no living organisms were living before. So that new area was exposed to live or colonized by the living organisms, that is primary succession. And for example, some bare rocks are there, and volcano lava eruptions were there, and um, so like this is a slow process. No organic matter was there. There must be soil, and it depends on climate. It takes a natural process several thousand years to produce colonization for fertile land over there, because there was no organic matter before. So first to produce organic matter, then we organisms start to live over there. The second one is secondary succession, and in that is the area where the previously occupied area by the living organisms, but that was disturbed, like by flood, by fire, by deforestation, by some other natural disaster. So it is previously occupied by living organisms, but it was cleared before. So then a recolonization was occurred after the disturbances. So ecological successions, we can see there are different ecological successions on different areas. Area wise, if we see, so that is called, the first one is called hydrarch. Hydra means water, and um, like it begins, this hierarch or this ecological succession begins in the ponds, lakes, marshes, or anywhere where the water was present before, or in the water which water is present now. So they can, like the life can originate from there. So the stages are called hydroseries. So Zirarch, or we can see this word Zirarch for that area which is barren, bare rocks, no water is there, dry land, sand dunes, rocky slopes, etc. And its stages are called xeroceros. Xeroceres. There are different stages of ecological successions. It means how the succession is going to proceed. First of all, in that barren area, pioneers come over there and start to inhabit that land. So they increase in number, and first they migrate from anywhere. That's why they're called starter successors also. And when they become successful in taking hold the soil, you can see here, this is the barren land. Here you can see, then what happened, they increase in number, and by their death and decay, the pioneer increase organic matter, moisture, and nitrogen content of the soil. So enriched soil now is able to invade and proceed for the next step, like the next community or next group of the organisms will come over there, that are called cereal communities. And these cereal communities actually invaders after the pioneers. So they constitute one cereal stage, like one after the other, one after the other. When the organic material was become too much rich and the soil become fertile, so the previous species or community can die due to lack of that conditions, because the conditions are now suitable for the next invader. So these are some, there are some, we can say this serial stages over there. You can see here the serial stages. So the next one is the climax community, when the environment is so much plentiful, so much favorable for the living organisms. So the climax community will form over there. Like that is the end product of succession, you can see here. Now we will take an example of ecological succession, that is hierarchical succession. And in that succession, there are some stages of hierarchical succession. First of all, in anywhere, like in the hierarchy also, if that is a hierarchy, like their barren rocks or exposed rocks are there. So after that, a crustose lichen stage build up over there. So that stage, that is cereal stage, and they are pioneers also, and they just form the crust over the barren rocks. So um, they are actually the slow growers, because before there were no organic matter, and they have to withstand extreme desiccation also. When there is a rain, they absorb water like sponges, and then they decompose the rocks by secreting their enzymes and their secretions. And and then they start to proceed to the next stage. Um, After they are the example of Christo's lichen is Licanora and Rhinodina. And then that is actually symbiotic relationship between fungi and algae. So foliose lichen stage is formed. Foliose lichen stage means the leaf-like lichens are going to be formed, like there is going to be photosynthesis, because due to the absorption of water, the lichens are going to do photosynthesis also. So Parmelia and Dermatocarpum is the we can see the example of those lichens. Then we are having the mosses stage. So due to the rainfall and due to the accumulation of organic matter, now there is a soil formation over there due to degradation of the rocks as well as the dead material of the previous lichens. So from the creases of the rocks, the mosses are going to be formed over there. So those are xerophytic mosses begin to appear from there. By their death and decay, a mat-like structure is going to be formed on the rocks. From there, herbs are going to arise. So herbaceous weeds, mostly annulus, invade the rocks and then they penetrate deep down into and by making their roots deep into the rocks and soil by secretion the acids, and by secretion the acids and digestive enzymes, they also proceed weathering in the rocks also. So by decaying of these grasses or herbs, then these herbs, what happen? um, we know that their humus is going to be formed, and then shading of the soil results in the decrease of evaporation. And when decrease of evaporation, accumulation of water is there, temperature gets maintained, and then xeric condition begins to change into biennial perennial also. So then grasses are going to be formed like higher grasses, and after that shrubs are going to be arise from there. And on the soil, xeric shrubs, because the environment is still dry, so they are not woody, they are actually smaller plants with no trunk, with no hard trunk. They are then um, early invasions of shrub is slow, and few bushes are going to arise. After that, you can see the young forest is going to be arise from after the shrub level. So these are some communities, these are called the serial stages, serial communities, one after the other, that is their whole area is going to be inhabited by certain other species. Then there is a tree stage. In the tree stage, changing the environment favors colonize of the tea species, and they are going to originate from the shrubs, and the new species also invade over there by pollination, by dispersal of the seeds, etc. So here, due to growing of the seeds, more favorable conditions become over there, like more photosynthesis or more decaying of material just increase its uh, we can see increase the soil fertility, humus is going to be formed and more amount, and then at last the last and of last cereal stage is going to be formed, that is called the climax community. The first species of the trees are relatively xeric. As the weathering process continue and the soil deepens, the xeric trees turn into the mesophytic species of the trees. So after that, ultimately the forest has been formed. So that is happening like not at very short period of time. Here you can see the period is going to be increased into thousands and thousands of years, even the million years, to from the exposed rocks up to the climax, a forest or climax community, or that climax serial stage has to be arrived in thousands of years. So, dear students, I hope you understood and you found this lecture very, very interesting. Wish you all the best. Thank you. We will see you in the next lecture, inshallah. Allah Hafiz.